The film begins in District B13, a perilous neighborhood in Paris characterized by rampant crime and an atmosphere of chaos. This area has been deliberately isolated by city officials, effectively segregating criminals from the more peaceful parts of the city where law-abiding citizens go about their daily lives. Within this confined environment, various criminal factions are in constant conflict, each vying for dominance. Among these factions is Leïto, a skilled leader of a local gang renowned not only for his leadership abilities but also for his exceptional parkour skills, which allow him to navigate the city with remarkable agility, effortlessly leaping over obstacles. Leïto soon finds refuge in an apartment that his gang members help to protect. However, trouble arises when K2, a member of the district's most feared gang, arrives at Leïto's doorstep. K2 is affiliated with Taha Ben Jaloun, a notorious crime boss who exerts considerable control over District B13. His visit is anything but cordial. K2 has come to retrieve Leïto after he recently pilfered drugs from Taha. Despite the imminent threat, Leïto's gang members stand their ground in defense of their leader, but K2 proves to be merciless, overpowering several of them. The situation escalates as more armed members of Taha's gang arrive, transforming the apartment into a chaotic battleground. Recognizing the escalating danger, Leïto swiftly discards the stolen drugs by disposing of them into the city's water system in an effort to eliminate any incriminating evidence. Amidst the turmoil, K2 manages to breach Leïto's apartment. The tension in District B13 reaches a critical point, placing Leïto in grave jeopardy. Aware that he must escape promptly, Leïto leverages his parkour skills to evade capture. Unarmed, he cleverly outmaneuvers Taha's men with his speed and agility, leaping across rooftops and navigating through buildings, leaving his pursuers struggling to keep pace. In a thrilling chase, Leïto even manages to throw off a few of his assailants with his swift movements, successfully eluding K2 and the rest of Taha's gang. Back at his base, Taha was seething with anger. He was incredulous that, despite dispatching a dozen men after Leïto, none had succeeded in capturing him. Overwhelmed by his frustration, Taha demanded suggestions from his men on how to apprehend Leïto once and for all. When no one proposed a viable plan, his fury escalated, leading him to shockingly execute 3 of his own men as a warning. In response to the tense atmosphere, K2 devised a new strategy: to kidnap Leïto's younger sister, Lola, who worked as a cashier at a local store and would be an easy target. Without delay, K2 and Taha's men set out to abduct Lola. Shortly thereafter, K2 successfully brought her back to their headquarters and escorted her directly to Taha. As they traversed a hallway filled with Taha's gang members, some began to harass Lola. However, she remained undeterred and boldly slapped one of them across the face. Observing this, K2 quickly intervened, pulling her away from the group and leading her straight to Taha to discuss their next move. Later, Taha decided to disseminate the news of Lola's kidnapping, hoping it would lure Leïto to them. However, Leïto was already one step ahead. Without warning, he crashed through a window into Taha's room, catching everyone off guard. He then aimed a gun at Taha and firmly declared that his drug operations in the area were over. Leïto was not merely there to issue threats, he had come to rescue his sister. Faced with no alternative, Taha reluctantly consented to release Lola. However, Leïto insisted on ensuring their safety and took Taha hostage, using him as a shield while they made their way to the exit. As they navigated through the building, Lola spotted the gang member who had previously harassed her. Seizing the opportunity, she ensured he faced the consequences of his actions by embarrassing him publicly. Once outside, the siblings quickly jumped into a car and sped away, but Taha's men were determined not to let them escape easily and began firing at them. Fortunately, Lola's experience as an underground taxi driver equipped her with exceptional driving skills. She expertly maneuvered through the streets while dodging bullets during their daring escape. In a surprising turn of events, instead of fleeing, Leïto and Lola took Taha directly to the local police station. There, they handed him over to Inspector Miguel along with a suitcase filled with drugs as evidence of Taha's criminal activities. However, the situation quickly deteriorated when Taha's gang surrounded the station, threatening violence if their leader was not released. Fearing an imminent confrontation, Inspector Miguel opted not to challenge them. Rather than incarcerating Taha, Inspector Miguel made the shocking decision to release him and instead confined Leïto to a jail cell. The situation took a darker turn when Inspector Miguel, intimidated by Taha, allowed him to forcibly take Lola with him. Subsequently, the inspector attempted to rationalize his actions to Leïto, explaining that he was nearing retirement and wished to avoid conflict with the mafia. In a fit of rage and betrayal, Leïto struck the inspector violently, resulting in the latter's unexpected death. 6 months later, the scene transitions to a convenience store that serves as a front for a large casino operated by a Mexican gangster named Carlos Vince. At that moment, Carlos is with his associates, Benito and Pedro, when he meets Sami, the financial manager for their operations. However, tension arises when Sami reveals that a significant sum of money is missing, suggesting that someone may be stealing from them. Without hesitation, Carlos suspects Pedro of treachery and shoots him on the spot. Just as Carlos reaches for the remaining cash, Benito surprises him by pointing a gun at him. It is revealed that Benito, whose real name is Damian, has been working undercover all along, gathering evidence to bring Carlos down. In this moment of betrayal, Damian ties up Carlos in preparation to turn him over to the police while planning his escape through an air duct. However, the escape proves challenging as Sami and the rest of Carlos's gang begin firing at him. Fortunately, Damian's quick thinking and exceptional parkour skills allow him to navigate swiftly and neutralize all of Carlos's men with ease. After subduing the criminals, Damian calls in a cleanup crew to collect all evidence from the scene. He then takes a moment to exact revenge on Carlos for all the times he was forced to wash his car while undercover. With a sly grin, Damian destroys Carlos's prized vehicle right in front of him, delivering his long-awaited retribution. Once the operation concluded, Colonel Braun commended Damian for his exemplary performance. However, there was no time for respite, as Colonel Braun had already prepared another urgent mission for him. Shortly thereafter, Damian met with a government official named Kruger, who briefed him on the new assignment. This time, the stakes were significantly higher. Damian was tasked with averting a catastrophe involving a powerful neutron bomb that had inadvertently fallen into the possession of Taha's gang. Originally intended to devastate District B13, the bomb had been accidentally activated by Taha himself. Consequently, Damian needed to act swiftly to prevent a potential disaster. Kruger emphasized the urgency of the situation, stating that Damian had only 24 hours to reach District B13 and ensure the bomb would not be used to inflict harm. There was a genuine concern that if Taha chose to utilize or sell the bomb, countless innocent lives would be jeopardized. To assist him, Colonel Braun arranged for Damian to collaborate with Leïto, who possessed extensive knowledge of the district's electrical grid. However, there was a significant obstacle: Leïto was still incarcerated. Thus, Damian's first task was to persuade Leïto to join him on this perilous mission. The following day, as Leïto was being transferred to another facility, Damian disguised himself as an inmate in the transport vehicle. In a swift maneuver, he freed himself from his handcuffs and opened the car door, briefing Leïto on the dire situation. He informed Leïto that Taha had killed his family and that he was seeking vengeance. Additionally, Damian delivered the heartbreaking news that Leo's sister, Lola, was now in Taha's custody and being coerced into a life of drugs. He urged Leïto to escape with him and venture into District B13 together. Once free, Damian quickly subdued 2 guards and took control of their vehicle. However, Leïto remained skeptical of Damian's intentions and handcuffed him to prevent any potential betrayal. The two managed to bypass the police station at the district's entrance when suddenly their vehicle's brakes failed, causing Damian to crash into a gangster's car to halt their progress. Upon realizing that Damian was actually a police officer, Leïto decided to abandon him and proceed alone. Moments later, Damian found himself in a precarious situation, held at gunpoint by 2 irate gang members whose vehicle had been damaged. With no other options available, Damian fought them off. Meanwhile, at his hideout, Taha was tending to Lola while relaxing in front of the television. Soon after, K2 entered and alerted Taha that Leïto had escaped from jail and was likely coming for Lola. This news immediately heightened Taha's alertness, prompting him to order K2 to enhance security around their base. Unbeknownst to them, Leïto was already in close proximity, observing their every move from a concealed location. Shortly thereafter, Damian caught up with Leïto, visibly irritated about being left behind earlier. After a tense exchange, they ultimately agreed to join forces. Damian then briefed Leïto on the perilous situation involving the bomb that Taha had inadvertently activated. Recognizing the seriousness of the matter, Leïto took Damian's phone and contacted Taha, informing him that he was now allied with a police officer. Leïto concluded that the most effective strategy would be to confront Taha directly and attempt to negotiate. Although Damian expressed skepticism about this approach, Leïto remained adamant that it was the safest course of action. Shortly thereafter, K2 and his men arrived to escort Leïto and Damian to Taha's hideout. Upon their arrival, Taha immediately inquired about Damian's presence in his territory. Damian explained that they were there to disarm the dangerous bomb that Taha had acquired. In response, Taha stated that he would only permit this if they provided him with 20 million euros, otherwise, he threatened to relocate the bomb to another city. This ultimatum placed Damian in a difficult position, prompting him to call Kruger and request the funds be transferred to Taha's account. However, Kruger declined to authorize such a substantial payment. With no viable alternatives, Damian decided to deceive Taha by assuring him that the payment was en route. Nevertheless, Taha was not easily convinced and ordered K2 to detain both Leïto and Damian until the money arrived. While in captivity, Leïto began to question Kruger's motives, wondering why the government was unwilling to pay if the bomb posed a genuine threat. Meanwhile, Lola was struggling to disable the bomb on her own, but her movements were severely restricted due to being chained up. As time ticked dangerously close to detonation, Leïto devised a risky plan, which Damian agreed to. Together, they misled Taha's men by claiming they needed to speak with their boss. However, once they entered the hallway, they turned the situation around, utilizing their impressive parkour skills to evade Taha's heavily armed guards. Shortly after, Leïto led Damian into a concealed tunnel to escape the ensuing chaos. Back at Taha's headquarters, Sami delivered shocking news. Damian's claim about the money transfer was false, and the government had seized all of Taha's funds. Enraged and now financially incapacitated, Taha's gang, particularly K2, turned against him, leading K2 to kill Taha on the spot and assume control of the gang. Now in charge, K2 ordered his men to pursue Leo and Damien, but the two adeptly evaded capture by skillfully leaping across rooftops and dodging their pursuers. Leo suggested they separate. He would take to the rooftops while Damien remained on the streets below. Despite their efforts, K2's gang eventually managed to track them down and encircle them. In an unexpected turn of events, K2 expressed his desperation for their assistance in disarming the bomb set to devastate District B13 within just 10 minutes. During this tense moment, K2 agreed to collaborate with them to defuse the bomb and save the district. However, just as Damien and Leo were about to begin their efforts, they were confronted by Buhead, Taha's most loyal henchman. Damien struggled against Buhead but, with Leo's assistance, they succeeded in overpowering him. Meanwhile, Lola, unable to resist the effects of the illicit drugs any longer, made a fateful decision. Fortunately, Leo arrives just in time to prevent Lola from taking drastic action, calming her down before any tragedy occurs. Simultaneously, Damien urgently contacts Kruger for the bomb deactivation code. When Kruger finally provides the code, Leo senses something amiss and cautions Damien against using it, suspecting that Kruger's true intention may be to detonate the bomb and destroy the district. As time runs out, Damien and Leo find themselves in a heated disagreement, with Damien reluctant to believe that Kruger would betray him. However, Leo persists in trying to convince Damien of Kruger's deceitful nature. As the timer approaches its final seconds, Lola joins the conversation, pleading with Damien not to enter the code. Moments later, the clock strikes 0, and everyone braces for an explosion. However, the bomb does not detonate, confirming Leo's suspicions. With the bomb disarmed, K2 decides to allow Damien, Leo, and Lola to leave unharmed. An hour later, Damien and Leo storm into Kruger's office, bringing the bomb with them. Damien quickly threatens to activate it unless Kruger confesses his scheme regarding District B13. Under pressure, Kruger admits his plan to eliminate the district, viewing it as a burden on the city and believing it is better off destroyed, disregarding the potential for change and growth among its residents. As Kruger finishes his confession, Damien instructs him to turn on the television, revealing to his shock that his entire confession is being broadcast live, recorded by K2's gang and transmitted directly to the news. Consequently, everyone witnesses his true intentions. In the end, Leo and Lola decide to remain in District B13, optimistic about the government's promised improvements. Meanwhile, Damien returns to his role in the secret police, prepared to face whatever challenges lie ahead. The film ends. Please subscribe for more of these recaps. Have a nice day.